All right. All right. All right. Let's do this. Week 5 already? Time's flying, man. I really needed to slow down.
Yeah, we survived our off week. They didn't replace us. I was
I know.
worried that we were going
That's
to
what I
be
mean.
out of a
Like
job, but
it's
hey,
going
we're
so
still
fast
here.
that like I'm not gonna have I remember I don't do anything besides this. So
When you're
gotta
making the minimum for the Actors Guild, it's
yeah,
hard to find a
exactly.
replacement that'll take less.
It's true. It's true. I literally will do this job for pennies. So please keep me on. Man, week 4 came and went. Like you said, our bye week, but a lot of action, a lot of things happening in just one week that we haven't been able to talk. So, I mean, what you hearing anything? Like, what's the big talker that everyone's talking about?
They keep getting on me about my hair. The management's like, "Hey, you need to fix that, cut that. We're not sending a stylist." And I'm like, "Hey, pay for a haircut, or this is what you get."
I, I I like the look though, the wave of the top. It's growing out. What's the longest your
It's
hair's been?
this is the longest it's been in a while. It's definitely this is more like the high school look. I was rocking but I didn't have the comb over then, so this is probably the longest it's been in 4 or 5
Okay,
years. So
so
we'll see.
there is no
If
threshold
they're,
at this point.
if they're not
You're
gonna
in
pay for a
MMA.
haircut, then my daughter's gonna cut it. So it's like, yeah,
I
I don't know
mean,
if they want that either. So
I think you should say that for a segment. I think the producers would love that.
just a live haircut,
Yeah.
a 6-year-old with scissors.
Perfect. As like the Patriots are playing. If the Patriots are playing the I don't know what's another terrible team like the Broncos. Maybe that's worth watching. You get your haircut than that
The
game.
Patriots playing anybody. I'd almost rather watch the two horrible teams play than the Patriots
That's
play
true.
the
Exactly.
rest of the NFL teams. I mean, nothing's going to be as exciting as that Thursday night game. That
Oh
was
man.
wild. Kirk Cousins slinging it, and it's interesting. They're joking afterwards that he's just getting started. That wasn't enough for him.
Yeah.
So that's
I
going
mean,
to be
when you watch that game, you see that offense starting to click. One, two. I felt like we weren't watching a Thursday night football game. I felt like we were watching a like other primetime game because Thursday night football games are usually boring. So
yeah,
the fact that
or even a
they're
playoff game. It had that
yeah, the
playoff field
energy.
just back and forth, just
Yeah,
knock them out. I mean, running up and down the field like it was a basketball game.
no, it was exciting and what an exciting finish. I mean, if that's how we start week 5, I cannot wait for the rest of it. It's gonna
Yeah, I mean,
be.
if any game tops that this week, we've had a good
I
week.
know that might be a hard
We'll
game to
see.
top the rest of the year. I think that's a contender for sure.
Yeah, one of the other exciting things we may see is trades starting to heat
Oh
up
yeah, here we
around the
go.
NFL and finally in fantasy too. I mean,
Yeah.
NFL obviously Devonte Adams. We had the whole Brandon Ayuk saga at the beginning of the year. Everyone's like, "Oh, he's set now," but if he doesn't start catching passes, they might deal him anyway. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it is funny. They should have just dealt him. If
at
this
this
is how you're
point,
going to use him in your offense, it doesn't make any sense. The it just he's dropping passes like there's just no flow right now with that offense. And now their stock is as low as it's going to get, and now you're paid them so much money. Like I don't know, it's
it's
going to be
tough.
hard to
Yeah,
really.
they think they're
Yeah,
gonna have to just bite the bullet and hope it gets
yeah.
going. At least they
Where do
got
you
other
think Devontae
weapons.
Adams goes? A lot of
Man,
talk.
all
Where
the odds are him
Hold on,
going.
hold on. Where do you think he'll go, and where do you think fantasy wise would be the best for him to go? Are those two different teams?
I think they definitely are. I mean, it seems almost inevitable that he's going to go to the Jets. Other teams are saying they don't even want to bother sending offers because they think that everything's positioning for him to just go to the
Mhm.
Jets. They seem like they really want to make Aaron Rodgers as happy as possible. And one thing that
Right.
I could see making a lot of sense is sending Mike Williams back in the deal
Yeah.
for Devontae Adams. You don't need Mike Williams if you bring in Devontae Adams, and that helps Las Vegas get a little bit of a piece back and some of that salary offset.
Yeah.
I think they're almost making the same money. It's like Devonte Adams isn't really getting paid that much for a wide receiver. I think it's 15 million this year. So I think just about any team could make it work cap wise. You could send back, they say the Chiefs don't have room for the cap, but they could send back 3 bums and
Yeah.
they'd probably be making close to $10 million anyway. So, you could figure out a way to make it work cap wise. Not really too concerned about it. And I think the Chiefs probably are the best fit for him fantasy wise.
I
If
agree.
you wanted to see him really excel. I mean, they're just decimated in their wide receiver room right now. So he'd be a good fit really with any offense, but the better the quarterback, the more targets available, the better situation, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's funny, they want Aaron Rodgers to be happy, but honestly, I don't know how much it'll help that team in that sense. They already have a big wide receiver room. I just think that team is just not very good all around. Um, I feel like he's gonna with Garrett Wilson, a lot of targets gonna be lost and everything. I'm interested in the Ravens as well. I do like, the Chiefs. That makes sense with Rashee Rice out. But the Ravens are really interesting to me too because Zay Flowers was never a number one guy to me on a football team. I think he's like a great number two, a great slot receiver. If you had Devontae Adams in there, it would really show if Lamar can run a really great. There is no excuse for the Ravens after that, right? Like there's
Well, I mean,
zero
if they're only
excuse.
going to throw 15 to 25 times a game, I see him being
Sure.
kind of disgruntled there too. It's like with 25 passes, 7 targets is
Yeah.
a monster load. And then, what? That leaves 4 or 5 for, Zay Flowers, a couple for Bateman, and then Likely and
Zero for
Andrews
Mark Andrews.
getting 3 more targets for 0 catches and
Yeah.
really
No, that's
making
true.
people cry.
But I do think like there are going to be games where you're going to have to throw. I mean, that's the problem that Lamar runs into in the playoffs every time is they're like, oh, we're going to throw it or we're going to run it and it gets stuffed. And now there is no rhythm for passing. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But huge, huge fantasy implications regardless because he's not going to play until he gets traded. It seems like so.
No, and there's quite a few other receivers that seem like they could get traded, and we could
Yeah.
see one of them be a more likely fit for the Chiefs. I've heard Christian Kirk rumored. I think that would be a really good fit for the Chiefs. I mean, just an inside, underneath type player. Amari Cooper rumored to go. Like that would be. I mean, any receiver basically is a good fit with the Chiefs because they
Yeah.
don't have any right now, except for Sky Moore. Sky Moore apparently cannot play wide receiver for the Chiefs. He's rumored to get traded. I don't know who wants him, but I think you could get him for a 6th and 7th round pick swap. I mean, you could.
He was supposed to be amazing, and like now he doesn't even see the field.
and there's nobody in front of him. Everybody in front of him
It's
got
crazy.
hurt, and he still can't get even routes run, let alone targets or catches. I mean, just Kadarius Toney too. I mean, probably not going to see that guy on the field anytime. It's amazing how many wide receivers seem like they're going to be so good, and then they're not. And I had some guys in the league talking about how corners aren't very good. It's like if corners weren't very good, these guys would be able to catch passes all day.
Right.
I mean, you see these guys go for prolific games, but they're not bums. They need a good quarterback, a good play caller, and they've got to have speed or size that is elite enough to get past these corners.
Dude, I will always say this. I think cornerbacks are the most athletic players on the field because you have to run a route that you don't know and you have to stick on the fastest guy on the field every single. It just they do not get enough.
The DNs, those DNs are wild too. The size speed combo. I mean,
I know. It always cracks me up when it's like, why didn't you beat them? I was like, these guys are monsters. What do you mean, why didn't you beat them? We're like, why didn't you block them? Like, you try. It's crazy.
How did you miss that tackle?
Yeah. It's like, well, they're going 100 miles per hour. So
I lit him up in his ribs and he bounced off it.
Yeah. That is crazy. Real quick for me, bye weeks are beginning, so everyone's panicking because no one ever plans for bye weeks, which always cracks me up. So
where's the like? I just had my starters, and now one of my starters two are on bye. What do I do?
Bye weeks happen every year if you didn't know. What sucks though? Take a look. It's only week 5, but take a look at your week 14 buys and make sure like that is a
14. Forget about that. Look at your 4, 5, and 6. I mean, some people don't even know what players are on bye this week. I've seen lineups that have players on bye starting right now. Like get your lineup set, guys.
Or like they have like a triple backup plan because like they didn't plan for it until the very last minute. It's my favorite when buys start.
Bo Melton might go off this week with the way that Green Bay looks for receivers right now. I mean,
yeah, it's true.
We're gonna find out if Jaden Reed is the real deal or he's just been benefiting by being the third option.
Yeah.
All of a sudden he's the one We'll see. I mean, everyone's thinking he's going to have a huge week. I could see him having the low week and it being
Wow.
Wicks and Melton going off. I mean, it's hard to know. Like, what happens when you face the number one corner? Do you still have the juice, or is it just the third corner that you've been beating all year?
I just think of Xavier Worthy, right? Week 1 explosion and then disappears for 3 weeks and then explodes again. So it is these speed wide receivers sometimes can be stopped, especially if they're young ones. And then
you got to get him those run. Where are the run plays?
Yeah,
where are the run? He should have 3 runs every game.
Jet
I don't
sweeps.
care how, why, what you're doing. If you're not going to do that, let him return kicks. I mean, get that speed the ball.
On his hand. Yeah, and then pup. Check the guys coming off the pup. Potentially worth picking up, potentially trading for. You have a Nick Chubb, you have a Jonathan Brooks that people might get a little desperate holding on to right now. Even
TJ Hawkinson looks
TJ
like
Hawkinson.
He's going to start practicing soon. It's interesting. All these guys that went on the pup, it's the opposite of the guys that we thought were going to be ready to go week 5. Right. Haven't even started practice. The guys we thought weren't going to be here until November are all of a sudden practicing.
Yeah.
Like, I can't quite figure out if Nick Chubb is just way ahead of schedule or he's going to practice for 3 weeks and they're going to say, "Oh, sorry, he's on IR for the year. We can't."
Yeah. I think
Nick Chubb.
I think Nick Chubb comes in week 7, week 8. I think that will be his target. Well, he's practicing right now.
Yeah, he's got the 21 days, and then they have to activate him. I guess they could activate him and then not play him. He could be their 3rd running back or inactive on the day, but on the active roster. But it's hard to imagine that he's going to be just ready to go in a couple of weeks after that horrific knee injury.
Yeah. But he's the guy who can also squat.
Players heal way differently than we expect. I mean, TJ Hawkinson looks like he's ready to roll too. And
I roll an ankle and I'm out like the year. Like I just can't even do anything.
I worked out once and I'm like, I can barely swing a golf club now. It's just
yeah, man. So keep an eye on the pup guys. It is about the time to really start maybe picking them up or trading for them. So big on there. All right.
We got a new segment trying out this week. Hopefully it works. Everybody's always all about buy low, sell high. That's how you do it in fantasy, just like stocks. Well, these aren't stocks. They're people. And so sometimes you got to trade things up and move a little differently if you want to get a deal done. Sometimes you're going to have to overpay to make a deal done, and sometimes you're going to have to take risks that other guys wouldn't be willing to take. So we're going to go players that we want to buy high and players we want to sell low on because we don't want them to hit the basement. So let's go over some of our buy high guys that we think, get a little rep in before we go live.
Yeah. All right, let's flex them. I think the number one guy, Jayden Daniels, like that guy is unbelievable so far. Of all the young quarterbacks, a lot of people thought while he looked good at camp, it could take him a little bit to kind of get used to the speed. He's a smaller guy. He's not as polished. Like he had a lot of ups and downs in college where as a Caleb Williams was a automatic number 1 pick the moment he touched the field. So Jayden Daniels had a 1st-round pick while he was with ASU and then went down. Now was no longer – it was an undrafted, went to LSU, had to take 2 years to win the Heisman. So this guy's been through a lot, and I think people didn't think he'd catch up to this game so quickly.
No, it seems like he's him because he's out there completing passes at a higher percentage we've ever seen for any quarterback, not just a rookie. And the thing that I think is so interesting and why I would want to buy him now is I don't think he's hit his ceiling. We haven't seen him run for 100 yards. Yeah. We haven't seen him hit multiple deep passes for touchdowns in a game. I think we're just kind of scratching the surface. I could see a game where he throws for 300, 3 touchdowns, and runs for 100, close to 100, and a touchdown. I mean, he hasn't gotten in a true shootout with a team. I mean, we saw a little bit of it versus Cincinnati, but we see a game that both teams are in the 40s where it's just back and forth, kind of like what we saw Thursday night. I think his ceiling's even that much higher.
Yeah, look, I think Jayden Daniels is just a special quarterback. I mean, the Commanders, a lot of, set him up, right? The first week, he looked decent. Second week, you're like, what happened? Now he's comfortable. Now he's like, oh yeah, I have Terry McLaurin just sitting over here on the side. Let me throw it deep to him.
And with the way things have gone, I can't think of a quarterback that I would say, no, you can't trade him for
Right.
Jaden Daniels. I mean,
Yeah.
Josh Allen, you want to do it? Go ahead. If the guy will take Mahomes for him, hit accept.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson, why not? I mean,
I have both Jordan Love and Jaden Daniels in one of my leagues, and I just have Jordan Love sitting there, and I'm like, I'm just gonna trade you because what you're never gonna see the field if Jaden Daniels continues to play like this. And
yeah,
Jordan Love is a great young quarterback too.
And with him now starting, yeah, Tucker Kraft,
yeah,
guy looks like he's gonna be solidified as the number 1 tight end. They got Luke Musgrave there too, who was drafted ahead of him, but it looks like it's gonna be Kraft. And with Love, seems like that's his preferred tight end. Musgrave can't stay healthy. It looks like it's going to be Kraft's job, and he's a crafty little tight end. And with the way tight end is right now, it's kind of a must start.
Yeah, I like Tucker Kraft a lot too. He was kind of coming on toward the end of the last season, and I do think Jordan Love is the type of quarterback that needs this big, target that's a safety target, right? Christian Watson cannot stay healthy. He cannot stay on the field.
Can't do it.
And that's where Tucker Kraft kind of sneaks in these red zone, these short yardage distances. And I think he is a safety blanket. And if they're going to throw as much as they have been in the last couple of games, I thought for sure that Jordan Love coming off of that injury, they're just going to run it 100 times. But instead, they threw it for 100 times.
Not when you get down like that. Yeah,
exactly. So who knows? I don't know if there's going to be a lot of shootouts, but there's obviously plenty of targets to be handed out. And with a revolving door of wide receivers, if Tucker Kraft is staying healthy, he's going to see a lot of those.
Another shootout we saw last week, Seattle and Detroit.
Yeah.
Ken Walker going off, first 3-touchdown game of his career.
Incredible.
He looks great. Hard to know if he's going to be able to stay healthy, right. But I think this is one of those guys that is worth buying high on. He's coming off of a huge game, but I think he could be elevated into that top 10, maybe even top 5 running backs for the rest of the season, especially the way the offense sets up. He doesn't get a ton of volume. Everything is built to pass, and so teams aren't going to sell out to stop him when they're lined up in shotgun 3-4 wide. Right. And so he's getting good looks against good personnel, and he's making the most of it. And he's looking real shifty out there, hard to tackle for DBs or linebackers, and it's a good recipe for running backs if you're not having to deal with the D-line.
Yeah, that offense, looks really good. I just like the scheme that they're running, to your point. That defense is decimated, the Seahawks defense, which means they're probably going to need to have a high-powered, fast offense, which bodes well for Kenneth Walker, since we saw that happen in front of our eyes Monday Night Football. So I do think he's going to see a lot of volume. I really, really have enjoyed. He's a powerful running back. He just needs to stay healthy. That's the problem. I mean, look at the play he did. Freaking spinning on his head, jumping back and forth and getting 4 more yards. That is the craziest play.
It looked fairly healthy on that play.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolute
game as well. Another guy we saw just Thursday night in a shootout, Baker Mayfield. I don't think anybody's going to think, oh, I need a king's ransom for Baker Mayfield. But right now he's performing like a top 5 quarterback. I think he's going to continue to perform as a top 10 quarterback. If you're really looking for a guy, he's a guy that maybe even be on the waivers still, or you could get for, a very reasonable trade. So I think he's a guy that I would buy high on as well.
Stop disrespecting Mike Evans, everyone. That dude he's Wolverine. That guy is one of the best wide receivers in the league, most consistent.
And if Baker just threw him all the time, he'd be even better for fantasy.
I know.
So every once in a while he forgets he's there and slows down, but he starts running. We don't need to see you run, Baker. Just throw to Mike Evans and Godwin. Don't worry about those other guys.
Yeah, I do. I agree. Baker might even be able to some leagues be picked up right now because that's how little people think of him. They can't imagine being consistent, but I think he's the real deal this year.
Yeah, Sam Darnold too. He's out there. He's got a bye coming up next week, so he's maybe dropped after this week. Got a tough matchup this week. You could see him out there if you need help at quarterback. And Derrick Henry, David Montgomery, these guys were drafted as RB2s. They're borderline RB1s right now. David Montgomery, Derrick Henry might be top 5 running back going forward. It doesn't look like anything's going to slow him down this year.
Did you see the stats that he reached a top speed of 21 point something miles per hour on that run? How's that humanly possible? Tell me how a 6'4", 240.
He was untouched. It was just running a 40. He was running a 40 with pads on. You know, it's like, yeah, this is my full speed, and you know those freaks of nature can stay at that elite level a few years longer, and he looks like he's absolutely one of those freaks, kind of like Adrian Peterson. We saw him play deep into his 30s. I think Henry's got a chance to stay in the league longer than a lot of running backs that are in their 20s right now.
Dude, he looks unreal. And to your point, everyone likes the shiny object called Jahmyr Gibbs, but David Montgomery is the guy who's always consistent in getting the red zone targets. So I've always been a big fan, and if you were able to sneak down past Gibbs to get David Montgomery, if that was your plan, it's paying off right now.
Yeah, we got some guys too that the bottom is not a floor. The floor is getting lower and lower. They're digging out a new basement. I mean, it can always get worse. You know, sometimes you think it can't get any worse for guys. Well, it certainly can. They could become the backup. They could be injured. And so some of the guys I think we should sell low on while we still can. J.K. Dobbins.
Right.
This guy, it's not just the production that's dipping right now. It's the fact that this guy has never stayed healthy. We saw him explode the first 2 weeks. Now he's into the season. We have no idea what he would look like late in the season if he were to get all those carries and stay on the field. So I think there's still guys out there that would give you a reasonable take on him, maybe trade him for a flex back, a number 2, 3, 4 wide receiver, depending on your league. Take what you can get for him, because I just don't see him continuing to produce like he did weeks 1 and 2.
Yeah, you know, and that Chargers offense has kind of been up and down so far. You don't know how injured.
Yeah, that's a real good point. Herbert, is he going to be healthy?
Yeah, like we'll see what, you know, it all goes through Justin Herbert. And, you know, that offensive coordinator who came from Baltimore, you know, he's always rode the hot hand. He's never been like, here's my one running back. That was the frustrating part of trying to figure out these running backs in Baltimore. And I think we're going to see a little bit of that during, you know, in the weeks to come when it comes to the Chargers. It's just who's going to be the lead back. Some days it's going to be the Gus Bus. Some days it's going to be J.K. Dobbins, and that's going to be – and some days it might be someone else, you know. So it all depends.
Greg Roman is Greg Roman.
Right.
Kendre Miller is rumored to be an interest for them in the trades. Another guy could get traded there to take over that running back spot. It's just real messy there for the Chargers. For sure.
Yeah, another guy that, you know, we saw explode week 1, Isaiah Likely, and now he's likely not going to get that many points ever again. Like, it's just that it is to your point, we talked about, there's just not enough targets going around in Baltimore. You have Likely, who's still the number 2 tight end when it comes to the depth chart, and then you're only passing it 25 times, and mostly to your running backs now. It's going to be brutal to try to get any high games again, if that's the volume.
How are you going to predict the games where the Ravens are going to get down 20 points and abandon?
It's just not going to happen.
It's just few and far between with that defense and Derrick Henry. I mean, maybe a games where Derrick Henry's actually hurt and not playing, you know, then might be an option. Or, you know, if Mark Andrews or Likely get hurt, then in theory the other one should have a good game, but I'm not going to believe it till we see it. So
Mark Andrews is a good blocker, though. Like, he was putting in some good blocks for Derrick Henry.
His blocking score has improved this season. You know, fantasy, he's not having a great year, but NFL tight end, he's climbing those power rankings.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it's just not looking good for the tight ends in Baltimore. It's a culture shift for sure.
Not looking good for any of these guys on the list, to be honest. Zamir White out this week with injury, but it's been looking worse and worse. You know,
he was supposed to be the sleeper running back this year. That sleeper that everyone was saying.
Hey, he's been getting the touches. He just hasn't been efficient with it. When you're not catching passes and you're getting 15 carries and scoring less than 4 points, it's not a good situation. You know, sell low. You're probably not going to be able to sell him in a redraft league, but in Dynasty, probably could still get off of him. Maybe in running, at least at a really running back heavy, you can get something for him.
Yeah.
But he's looking like a guy that might be on the waiver wire here sooner than later.
What about Ezekiel Elliott? What do you think about him?
I think he's looking for retirement homes. Maybe somewhere in Florida, Arizona.
I never understood the hype. Yeah, he was gonna get carries, but like, what are the carries gonna look like? And he's not even getting the carries anymore.
He's never been a running back that looked good to me. It was always slow and like wide, but not a power runner. It's hard for him to get through the holes. He doesn't do a whole lot. I mean, maybe he's a good third down back at this point. He's a good blocker in pass protection, but always had good hands, but he just doesn't have the speed to get it done. I think this is the last year we see him in the NFL, at least on an active roster.
Yeah, it just looks like the legs aren't there anymore, just for him. Ramondre Stevenson's interesting. That guy is a talented running back who cannot hold on to the ball, and they're going to replace him with a guy who had issues with holding on to the ball in Washington instead.
I think this is more of a send a message to Ramondre than a Ramondre's done in New England kind of thing.
I think so.
That it's, Gerard Mayo's trying to send a message to the team that we're trying to win football games. We're not just going to out here be loose with the football. Maybe he, sits the first quarter and then kind of takes over. I don't know, but I mean, I can see another running back coming in or him even getting traded at the deadline. When you get benched, clearly there's something off with you and the head coach. Like, he doesn't have your back 100%. He probably doesn't even have your back 50% at this point if you're getting benched. So hopefully it's just to send a message, but it also could be something that we see if Antonio Gibson takes it and runs and somehow doesn't fumble this year. It might be his job. And so I would sell Ramondre if you can right now. He had that big first week, still has some value. So trade him while you can.
Yeah, totally. And then a new segment we're going to try real quick before we have to go to air. Injuries that are worse than they are saying. What lists do you which ones do you want to tackle here?
I mean, Joe Mixon and Jonathan Taylor seem to both have high ankles that they're like, yeah, they could play. They might play this first week. But now we've seen
why is everyone downplaying high ankle sprains? Like, they used to be like a 4 to 6 week out, and now it's like they're back.
They're gonna try. Yeah, they just thrown Mixon on IR at this point. It looks like he's gonna miss 4 games. I think this is the 3rd or 4th game he's missed now this week. He played week 1, so he missed 4 weeks. They could have put him on IR, saved us all this trouble, but they didn't. Jonathan Taylor, they were making it seem like he was going to play. Now he's not. Yeah. But that whole pretend game, no, this is going to be a multi-week absence. Yeah. They're really overselling us on how healthy he is, and they did the same thing with Puka Nacua. It was like, oh, he might miss a month, and now it's like, oh, he might miss 2. And are you going to see him again? I mean, maybe December, but if the Rams are 2-6, 2-8. I mean, why would you bring back a young guy and push him back if he's not fully healthy?
No, yeah, I agree. And then we have, Isaiah Pacheco, who they said he fractured a bone,
just in his ankle and needed surgery.
Yeah, like, come on,
sounds like a season-ending injury.
I'm no doctor, but when you're panicking and you're giving the bulk to a guy who hasn't played in the league in a year, I think there's probably a lot going on and you're trying to sign people. So there's that. Rishi Rice, again, I don't know what the Chiefs training staff's like, but dude, just get him out of there and get him ready for next season. He's not coming back.
Yeah, it's a weird one. And I mean, I guess there's a small chance that when they went in the MRI, they saw that his ACL wasn't completely torn. It's like a partial tear. And when the swelling goes down, they're going to maybe be able to repair it and try to play this season. But high likelihood of him re-injuring it. I think it should just go in there, fix it up. I mean, the only other thing I could think of is maybe he just doesn't have an ACL. Like, he's just some sort of weird genetic anomaly. Like, they felt for it and it wasn't there. They're like, oh, it's gone. He must have torn it. And they get in there like, wait, where's his ACL? I mean, I don't think it could really work like that, but I'm no medical expert, I don't know exactly what's going on, but it seems more than likely, hopefully for his sake too. I mean, they just repair the knee and get him back next season.
After the show, look up DeJuan Blair ACL. A guy with no ACLs.
No, there you go. See, so I wasn't just making it up. I wasn't just making shit up.
We never
know?
make it
I
up.
do that the rest of the show, but that one I was actually correct on. And
All
Taysom Hill, this guy broke 2 ribs. They're like questionable. No, you're not questionable with 2 broken ribs. Had a punctured
goal line back
weeks ago. No, no. Stop doing that and get him a better flak jacket to wear every game. Like he's taking shots left and right. You're using him like a fullback. Just wrap it up. Put him in an armored suit at this point. Like these NFL players need some more padding.
I agree. I mean, he's going 2 yards. Just he'll be fine. He'll make it there if you just protect him. Real quick, dynasty players to add or trade. Who are you looking at right now?
Trey Tucker for the Raiders. I mean, I think he's going to take over as their number 2 receiver long term right now. Looks like Davante Adams is on the way out. Pretty unlikely he stays. Jacoby Myers is going to eat up targets and the number 1 coverage. So I think he's a good guy to go after. He's a young guy. Jacoby, bit older.
It too,
Geno Smith. I mean, this guy at the beginning of the year, we're like, oh, Sam Howell could take this job in a year or two. Right now, it looks like Geno Smith's going to be slinging it for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years in Seattle. You know, I mean, until he's done or toast. But I mean, he hit 22, 23 miles per hour running too. So he still has that athleticism that nobody quite realized. And he always had a cannon. I remember a story from Travis Kelce being at a quarterback camp one year and watching Geno Smith throw. And he said, I'm not a quarterback anymore. Like, put me in another position. I can't compete with that guy. Just absolutely slinging the rock. Hendon Hooker, this is a guy that all of a sudden rumored that he could get traded. If he gets traded to a team to start, I mean, that could be a really solid ad. He looked great in college. Haven't seen him at all in the pros. I really liked him as a prospect. Hopefully that works out. And Eric All, this guy looking good for the Bengals. Hard to look good as a rookie. I mean, in the NFL, rookie at tight end. We at least are seeing him on the field. We're seeing him get catches. So
can't be worse than some of the other top tight ends right now.
Yeah.
Real quick for me, I hate this one. I think it's disgusting, but Tank Bigsby, I just think that Jacksonville backfield is horrendous. It's
I love Tank.
I know. I just think, Tank had an awful rookie season, and I didn't, but ETN is just not performing right now. So I think Tank's going to get a few more looks. Roschon Johnson, while DeAndre Swift had an incredible week last week, I think Roschon Johnson's getting a lot of goal line carries. And I think the Bears realized, hey, to protect our rookie quarterback, let's run it more. And then Michael Wilson, I liked him last year, but now that Kyler's back, I think that guy on Arizona is going to be a great slot guy or number 2 guy next to Marvin Harrison Jr. or Marvin Harrison III.
Tank Bigsby, I think he's got a good long-term outlook. ETN on the last year of his deal. I can't see franchising him and paying him all that money. Let somebody else pay him. Maybe he'll go to Chicago and be the next $8 million, who knows what, in their backfield. There's some teams that just doesn't matter who comes in. It just doesn't look good.
He's a third down back. Travis Etienne to me is a third down back, and that's like him and Rachaad White are in the same family to me. That's how I see them. But
or a modern running back. If you're just going to sit back and throw all the time and you don't want to even make it look like you're running the ball, those guys can kind of fit with today's game, but not in Jacksonville.
All right. Sounds like our show's about to start.
We're going live?
Yeah, you ready?
Get it tight. My hair is my hair. Deal with it.
Yep. I'm team long hair. All right. See you on the other side.